Hey folks, I'm Papa Boris, and in this video I'm going to show you how to play Architects of Amytis. In case you're not familiar, this is a two-player tile-laying strategy board game with tic-tac-toe elements. You don't hear that very often. It just came out on Board Game Arena a few days ago, and there aren't any rules videos on the internet at the moment, so I thought I'd make one. Let's go ahead and get started. The object of this game is to score the most points. It is a strictly two-player game, and on your turn, you do the following. First, you take one of your architects, you have 4 of them, and you put them on one of the spaces of the market. In true worker placement game fashion, if there is already an architect on a spot, then neither player can put an architect on that spot. So workers do claim their spaces. Now, when you put an architect on a space, you get the building on top of the stack. So let's talk a little bit about stacks. You see this number 5 in the bottom right corner of each building? What that's telling you is that there are actually 5 building tiles in this stack. Once I take this blue market, I'm going to click my architect right here, bloop, you're going to see that that becomes a 4. So the tile beneath the tile that I just took is revealed. It can't be taken because there's an architect sitting on it, but there's an interesting layer of strategy in this game, which is that now both players know that once this architect is removed, the next tile available here is going to be an orange palace. Once you have placed your architect into the market and gotten the top tile of the stack that you put your architect on, you now have to place the building into your grid. So this is my grid here. I'm Papa Boris. We got Jack and Dak, the dummy player, helping me out. That's their grid. The 2 players cannot control each other's grids or affect them in any way. So this is my private space. I'm just pointing out that this is the opponent player. I can't do anything over here. So let's go ahead and just put this down. Now, there are 6 different buildings in the game. We'll talk about what they do in a bit. I think it gets bogged down a bit in the rules explanation if you stop right now to explain everything, but suffice it to say that for the most part, when you play a building, you get some points, and you can stack buildings on top of each other. So right now there's this 1 here. That means that there is 1 building in this stack. If later I take another building and I don't want the market here, or I want that market or the other building on the center space, no problem. I can just shove it on top of this market. There's no limit to how big stacks can get. And in general, anytime you get a building, you can put it wherever you want, whether it's onto a blank spot or on top of another building. And again, for the most part, when you play a building, you get some points depending on the type of building, and then your turn ends. So that's the outline of the game. For the most part, you put your architect down, take a building, put it onto your player mat, and then get some points. So what are the ways that we get points from these buildings, and what else can happen in the game? Well, let's go ahead and take a couple of more dummy turns here. We'll have Jack and Dak make some moves. I'll make some moves. And now I'm going to put my architect right here. When I do this, it's going to form a tic-tac-toe. And once I place this building and get some points, because I got a tic-tac-toe with my architects, I also get a royal favor. Or king's favor, king's favor. There we go. Not a royal favor, a king's. This will be very important. I'm just kidding. King's favor. The way the King's Favors works is that you have 5 of these discs, which means you can only get at most 5 King's Favors per game. And when you get a King's Favor, you claim one of these spaces. There are 7 favors that are unique, meaning they can only be taken once. So once I take this one, for example, no one else can take that one again. And then there are 6 spaces down here. This can be taken multiple times, obviously, though there is a limit of 6 across both of the players. I will take a moment to explain how these King's Favors works, but basically they all give you extra points at the end of the game. So what this one does is it gives you 3 points for every stack that has exactly 1 tile. So right now, for example, this would be worth 9 points because I have 3 stacks that each have exactly 1 tile in them. This one gives you 2 points, but for every stack that has exactly 2 tiles in it. This one is 4 points for every stack with exactly 3 tiles in it. And then over here, we've got 6 points for every stack with exactly 4 tiles in it. So these first 4 are points per stack that has a certain number of tiles. This one gives you 6 points for every staircase. Staircases are a little bit weird. It's basically if you have a row or column, not diagonal, row or column, that if you count the number of tiles in the stacks, goes from 1 to 2 to 3, or from 3 to 2 to 1. So there needs to be a 2 in the middle, and there needs to be a 3 on one side and a 1 on the other side. Each staircase is worth 6 points, and diagonals don't count. The rule book says that you can have at most 24 points from this favor, and I had to do a little bit of a logic puzzle to figure out how that can actually happen, and that's if you don't use the middle. If your edges are both 2s, and then one corner is 3, and the opposite corner is a 3, and then one corner is a 1, and the opposite corner is a 1, then you end up with 4 staircases around the edge. So the trick is not to use the middle, then you can get 24 points from this thing. Okay, the next one is you get 5 points for every stack that is in a corner and has at least 3 tiles in it, so maximum of 20 points there. And then this one gives you 2 points for every project you've completed. What's a project, Boris? Okay, we'll talk about that in a second. So for every project, you get an extra 2 points. And then down here is the catch-all space. The number of points you get for your King's Favors here depends on how many King's Favors you have. If you have 4 King's Favors in here, 30 points, congratulations. If you have 3, it's 18, 2 is 10, and just 1 is 4. Now, I'm gonna have Jack and Dack make a different move. And let's go here for Jack and Dack. And you'll notice now that at the start of my turn, my architects came back to my supply. So you have 4 architects, but 3 of them came back before I placed the 4th one. Why is this? Well, at the start of your turn, if your architects form a tic-tac-toe, or if all 4 of them are on the board, then the architects return to you. And this is important. The architects come back not at the end of your turn, but at the beginning. So the architects do stick around for a turn after you play them, blocking your opponent before they come back to you. So now my architects are back because I did get a 3 in a row. So when I play my next one, now it's Jack and Dack's turn, and Jack and Dack cannot make a 3 of a kind. So he'll do something different. He'll take this one. And now let's talk a little bit about projects. Projects are these blue tiles, or these blue cards, I guess, over here, that give you points when you create a certain pattern of colors on your player board. So the way it works is that every building has a type, there are 6 different types of buildings, and a color, and these are independent of each other. So for example, this building is an orange palace, but not all palaces are orange, and not all orange tiles are palaces. A palace can be any color, and an orange tile can be any type of building. So the color of the building determines how you're able to complete these projects. The game is very nicely designed for colorblind folks, because every color corresponds to a symbol. Green is a circle, orange is a triangle, purple is a square, and then my personal favorite, blue, is a lumpy star. So if you have on your board an arrangement of colors that matches one of these tiles, then you can turn the tile upside down and then add it face down to a stack. You don't get the points right away, the points are revealed at the end of the game. So even though it can be tracked immediately, it's not in this game for an extra element of surprise. So when Jack and Dack puts this new green building right there, he actually accomplishes this project right here because he has 3 purples and a green. Now, in addition, let's talk about what the buildings actually do. Regardless of the color, this building that has a little hat on top is a palace, and what it lets you do when you play it is it lets you take a project card. So that's the way in this game that you get new project cards, is by playing these palaces, and you also get 1 point per visible palace on the board. When it says visible, that just means that if you had it on your board and then stack something else on top of it, it doesn't count anymore. Once a building is stacked over, it ceases to exist. So I'm going to ignore the word visible in my explanations from this point on. I'll just say 1 point per palace on the board, and we'll understand that if it's covered up, it's not counting. So Jack and Dack would get 1 point for this because this is the only palace, and then he would also get to take a project tile. And he looks at these and says, I don't like any of them, and so he's going to choose to take a random one from the deck. So you can always take one of the 3 face-up ones or the one from the deck. And that's actually quite a nice one for him. In fact, that will give us an opportunity to talk about some rules. So I'm going to make a dummy move here. We'll just do some junk with it that doesn't make any sense. And now Jack and Dack gets his architects back because he had all 4 on the board without getting a tic-tac-toe, and he is going to take this purple building right here. He's also going to play it in that spot. Now you'll notice that when he does this, where he's going to have 3 purple buildings vertically, but he has this project tile that has 3 horizontally. Well, that's okay. You can rotate these project tiles and complete them in any orientation. Now, mirrored is not okay. Mirror does not count, But in Board Game Arena, it's really nice. You can rotate them to see different possible orientations. There's 4 different ways you could do it, and that can help you decide, which way you want to accomplish it. You do not have to rotate it in order to get the credit. So like when Jack and Jack places the purple tile in that corner, he is going to accomplish this projectile, even though it's not rotated here. It still counts. The rotation is just there as a player aid in the app to help you visualize what other combinations are possible for completing the projectiles. Okay, so that's colors of buildings and why they matter, and also the palace. Let's talk about the other buildings. So over here we have gardens. What gardens do is they give you 1 point for every stack that has the same number of tiles as the stack that you just placed the garden into. So for example, if I take this garden and I put it here, I'm gonna get 6 points because I have 6 stacks in my board that have exactly 1 tile, 1 being the number of tiles in the stack that that garden was played into. Over here we have markets. Markets are very simple. You just get 2 points for every tile with the same color as the market, including itself. Walls give you 2 points for every wall, including itself. However, the wall in the center does not count. This is the only way that I know of to play a tile and get no points. If you play a wall into your middle and have no other walls, then you get no points. Otherwise, as far as I can tell, any tile that you place is going to give you at least 1 point. We've talked about the palace. It gives you a project as well as 1 point per palace on your board. And the residence. What this does is it gives you 1 point for each different building on your board. So it's at least 1 for the residence itself, up to a maximum of 6 if you have all 6 face up on your board. And last but not least is the theater. What this does is it gives you 1 point per architect on the board. And this is actually one reason why it's relevant that architects are removed at the beginning of your turn rather than at the end. It means that if your opponent places their 3rd architect in a tic-tac-toe or their 4th without a tic-tac-toe, then you still get those 3 or 4 points if you on your turn play the theater because your opponent's architects don't return until the start of their next turn. So how does the game end? Well, once 1 stack is emptied from the market, the game continues. But once a 2nd stack is emptied from the market, that triggers the end of the game. And this is one of those games that's engineered so that both players get the same number of turns in total. So if you were the first player and you trigger the end of the game by emptying the 2nd stack, then your opponent will get another turn after you, and then the game will end. If you are the 2nd player and you empty the 2nd stack, then right after your turn is over, the game ends. At that point, the players will reveal their completed projects, get points for those, and get points for any king's favors that they have, and then whoever has the most points wins. So that's it for the rules. If you like this video, please like it and subscribe, and I'll also be back in a moment to play some games, because I think seeing the game played can help you understand the rules better if you're interested in jumping onto Board Game Arena and giving this game a shot. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'll see you again soon.